Welcome to this pre-recorded webinar introducing Key Action 347, Support for Policy Reform Youth Dialogue. As you may know, funding is allocated from the EU into different streams for the Erasmus Plus programme. These are called Key Actions and are administered by the British Council and Ecoris UK. Together, Ecoris and the British Council are the UK's national agency. For the purposes of this presentation, which refers to Key Action 347, Support for Policy Reform Youth Dialogue, the agency you as applicants will need to deal with is the British Council. This information has been produced by Erasmus Plus, the UK national agency which will support you in completing and submitting your application. Please note, guidance produced for the 2019 and earlier calls should not be used for the 2020 call. Let's spend a few minutes focusing on the bigger picture, as the Erasmus Plus programme is much larger than Key Action 3. This may help you to understand the scope of the Erasmus Plus programme. Erasmus Plus is the European Union programme for education, training, youth and sport organisations across all sectors of lifelong learning, including school education, further and higher education, adult education, and the youth sector. The current Erasmus Plus programme runs for 7 years, from 2014 to 2020, with organisations invited to apply for funding each year, and it is broken down into centralised and decentralised activities. The successor programme to Erasmus Plus will be launched from 2021. The Erasmus Plus programme is structured around 5 actions, although only 3 are managed on the national level. The centralised activities are delivered at a European level across all the participating countries by the European Commission's executive agency, which is based in Brussels. Centralised projects are larger and more strategic and designed to tackle specific issues throughout Europe. Decentralised activities, on the other hand, are delivered at a national level by a network of organisations known as national agencies. National agencies are themselves overseen by national authorities, the government departments responsible for ensuring the programme is delivered in their countries, and your application will come under this section. The UK National Agency is split between 2 organisations, the British Council and Ecoris, as you can see. The 2 organisations have different responsibilities. However, for Key Action 347 Youth Dialogue, we at the British Council are your point of contact. At the top level, this Key Action 3, provides grants for a wide variety of actions aimed at stimulating innovative policy development, policy dialogue and implementation, and the exchange of knowledge in the fields of education, training and youth. The majority of them are managed by the executive agency in Brussels. If you would like more information on these, we would recommend visiting the European Commission's website. As the slide says, this action promotes the active participation of young people in democratic life and fosters debate around topics centred on the themes and priorities set out under the EU Youth Strategy, in particular with regards to youth goals and its dialogue mechanisms. Dialogue mechanisms are structured around priorities and timing and foresee events where young people discuss the agreed themes among themselves and with policymakers, youth experts and representatives of public authorities in charge of youth, in order to obtain results which are useful for policy making. And again, as the last bullet highlights, it's expected and encouraged that youth dialogue projects may take place in different forms and venues. So as the slide says, the main aim of Key Action 347 Youth Dialogue funded projects is to facilitate and promote the active participation of young people in democratic life, as well as to provide a platform for their concerns, interests and opinions so that these can reach and be heard by the decision makers. Eligibility. The organisation types listed on the slide are all eligible to make applications for funding, according to page 194 of the 2020 Programme Guide. There will be a link for the Programme Guide later. To ensure maximum access to the Erasmus Plus programme, charities with an unincorporated status, such as registered trusts and associations, who are registered with the Charity Commission, are now eligible to apply. We strongly recommend that all applicants, irrespective of the sector in which they operate, get in touch directly with us if they are unsure whether they are eligible to make an application. Eligible lead organisations. One organisation must lead the project and make the application for funding. UK organisations leading a project will be applying to the UK National Agency, although this is done through the European Commission's application portal. Again, there will be a link for this later. So, although your application will be assessed and funded through the UK National Agency, your application, along with all the other organisations applying, will be submitted to the EC's application portal. Eligible partner organisations. The programme countries are listed on the next slide, but it's an interesting note that this key action is unique in that mobility and transnational partnerships are not essential. That is to say, UK organisations can make an application for funding for a project that only takes place in the UK. So here we can see the list of the countries that can participate in the Erasmus Plus programme under Key Action 347 if the proposed project is transnational or international. The programme countries are those who belong to the EU and also include former Yugoslav, Republic of Macedonia, Iceland, Norway, Liechtenstein, Turkey and Serbia. However, as I said previously, if your planned project is within the UK, you do not need a partner with a programme country to apply for this type of funding. Eligible participants are young participants between the ages of 13 and 30. However, if decision makers are participating, they can be of any age. There is a minimum of 30 young participants needed. We will come on to a more detailed description of the application procedure, but first, here are some broad outlines of funding rules and criteria. As we've said already, you can apply for funding for national or transnational meetings. Projects must involve young people at all stages, and while the application will most likely be submitted by a representative of the youth organisation, it should be made clear that the area of focus, project design and associated activities are determined by the young people involved in the project. The point regarding non-formal learning principles and practices is to illustrate that this type of project can't be used to support activities taking place within a formal education setting. That is, to support a school debate team, for example. Projects should be rooted in non-formal learning, both in terms of organisations that apply, the participants involved, and the delivery of the activity. Slides further on will give some examples of possible activities, and there will be links to case studies to give examples. Remember too that the Erasmus Plus grant is intended as a contribution to your project costs, and it is not to cover the total cost of your project. The maximum grant awarded for a structured dialogue project is €50,000. Funding supports travel, organisational support, exceptional costs, special needs support, and projects can run for between 3 and 24 months. Activities. This list gives a sample of types of activity that organisations might include as part of their project. National meetings or transnational or international seminars, debate and active participation of young people. National meetings and transnational seminars linked to official youth conferences. events that promote debates and information on youth policy themes, linked to activities of the European Youth Week, consultations of young people with a view to find out their needs relating to democratic life, such as online opinion polls and surveys, meetings and seminars, information events or debates between young people and decision makers, youth experts, around the theme of participation in democratic life, events stimulating the functioning of democratic institutions and the roles of decision makers within these institutions. Whatever you elect to do within your project, it should be relevant to the young people with whom you work. Irrespective of the activity, young people should lead the activities in all stages of the project, from preparation to follow-up. Later on in this presentation, when we talk about the impact and dissemination of your project, we give a link to case studies in Erasmus Plus stories. It may be helpful to have a look at these to get an idea of projects and the range of activities that have already been successfully funded. Please note that the Wednesday 5th February deadline relates to projects starting between the 1st of May and the 30th of September 2020. The Thursday 30th of April deadline relates to projects starting between the 1st of October and the 30th of December 2020. Thursday the 1st of October deadline relates to projects starting between the 1st of January and the 31st of May 2021. We hope you will apply, and we will do what we can to support you. As a first step, we'd urge you to take careful note of the submission deadlines. These are fixed and no late submissions will be accepted. Also, as there are several different calls from other budget streams, that is other key actions, which are due to be submitted on the same day using the same portal, our strong advice would be to submit your application ahead of these deadlines. Please note that the lead applicant organisation will apply to their national agency through the EU application portal. If there are partners involved in the application, they don't need to submit the same application to their own national agency. The lead organisation is responsible for keeping partner organisations up to date with the progress of the project application. Do please take a note of these sources. We obviously can't replicate the application process here real time during this webinar, so we would recommend that you begin your application with looking at the top link first. Then have a look at the 2020 KA347 guide for applicants, although you may have to search for this via your browser, as we're currently having a problem with this link. Also have a look at the application portal, as well as the other links given above. Before applying, the Erasmus Plus website obviously has a lot of helpful information, and it's probably advisable, if you're a new applicant organisation, to take some time and navigate through from the top pages of the website down to the registration and application pages. Make sure information about your organisation is up to date in the organisation registration system, as this information will automatically be transferred into the application portal once you enter your organisation's identification. All organisations must upload the 2020 legal entity and financial identity forms onto the system. Registering. This is a portion of the registration page, and you need to follow these steps to obtain your organisation identification, called the OID. When you begin the application, there are prompts on how to find out if your organisation already has an OID and how to go about finding that. This year's form can be found at the link on the slide here, and you can switch between the Opportunities and My Applications tabs on the middle of the left-hand side of the Erasmus Plus site. To begin, from the Opportunities tab, click on Youth, which, as you can see, will lead you to the group of online applications relevant to youth. To enter the application form, just click on the blue Apply button. First, some general information. It may be useful to know that as you work through the form, it automatically saves your work every 2 seconds. You'll also be able to go in and out of the application as you wish, right until the submission deadline. Simply click on the home icon as highlighted in the picture. If you want to close the form and work on it at a later date, you can access the application under the My Applications tab of the Web Applications form homepage. However, we would probably recommend just bookmarking the page for an easy return to your application. Guidelines. Every new online application starts with this welcome message, reminding you of the European Commission's guidelines, and we recommend at least a quick scroll through the guidelines so you have a good understanding of all aspects of the online form. You can return to the guidelines anytime by clicking the Guidelines box in the vertical menu on the left-hand side. Context. The application has 5 context sections, as you can see. Just very briefly, context refers to the project title, start and end date, duration of the project, national agency, which in this case will be the British Council, and language relevant to your project. Participating organisations. In the section for applicant organisations, you'll be completing information about your organisation by entering the organisation ID, the OID, that we spoke about previously. All details of your organisation are then generated automatically based on the OID. When entering the OID number, please ensure there are no spaces before or after. If your organisation has already participated in any Erasmus Plus or European Solidarity Core actions managed by a national agency, and you already have an OID, then you do not have to register your organisation again. To check your OID, please use the web link provided earlier in this application section. Whilst this is a fairly straightforward section, I would like to draw your attention to the project contacts and encourage you to nominate 3 contacts from the start to avoid filling in additional forms later on. To enter your contacts, please click on the icon as highlighted in the right-hand side in the middle of this slide. Project description. You will be able to choose up to 3 topics that are the most relevant to your project, and as you'll see, there is a plethora of topics to choose from. This part of your application will also require a description of why you're applying for the funding, the project objectives, what are the issues and needs that you're seeking to address, and how the project is linked to the field of youth. A useful tip: please be mindful of the character count within the text fields, as the application form doesn't allow more than 5,000 characters. Participants' profile. In this section of the application, you will be describing the background of the participants involved, including decision makers, experts if relevant, and how these participants have been or will be selected. You will also be addressing which learning outcomes, i.e. knowledge, skills, attitudes, behaviours, are to be acquired or improved by participants in each of the planned activities of your project. Preparation. In the section for preparation, you should describe in detail how you intend to cooperate and communicate with your decision makers and other relevant stakeholders, and, if applicable, with your project partners. In the section for practical arrangements, you should address the logistic matters of your project. Activities. Under activities, you'll need to enter details of activities that you intend to implement in your project, as well as outline the main activities you plan to organise and the working methods used. Please note that each project activity must involve at least 30 young participants. Impact and dissemination. I would like to draw your attention to this narrative part of your application, as the impact and dissemination sections of applications often score less well and may sometimes be the reason for an unsuccessful application. When completing the section for impact, think about what impact your project is going to have. Try and identify clear and focused objectives, such as target groups for your project, and consider both tangible and intangible results. You should also be clear as to how you will measure this impact. To disseminate effectively, it is important to have a plan which answers these 6 questions: why, what, how, when, whom, and where to disseminate. You should refer to your dissemination plan in your application and relate this to the impact of your project and deliverables. If you look back up to the top of this slide, there are 2 links. We'd recommend taking time to look at both of these, as there are lots of ideas and ways described to address the impact and dissemination parts of your project application. The second link will take you to sector-specific case studies, and these may be helpful in shaping your project ideas and getting a feel for what is possible. Budget section. Our next slide will expand a little on budget categories. There are 4 budget types available through Key Action 3 as listed in the slide. Travel is based on fixed unit costs and is calculated using the European Commission's distance calculator tool. The further the distance travelled, the higher the unit cost provided. This funding is based on travel to a destination outside the UK. Organisational support is also based on fixed unit costs and is calculated per participant. It will be automatically populated based on the country of destination and duration of the stay. Special needs support is calculated on an actual cost basis and will be assessed on a case-by-case basis. The individual situation should be described, and any particular needs and extra costs should be detailed in the application form. Exceptional costs are calculated on an actual cost basis. Depending on the type of exceptional cost, you can request up to 75, 80, or 100% of eligible costs. We strongly recommend reviewing the guidance available on the Erasmus Plus website before making an application for exceptional costs. But to give some guidance, the funding rules state that these costs are specifically to support the following: costs connected to online consultations and opinion polls of young people insofar as is necessary for the participation in this action, costs linked to dissemination and exploitation of results, costs to support the participation of young people with fewer opportunities on equal terms as others, visa and visa-related costs, residence permits, vaccinations, and costs for providing a financial guarantee. Project summary. In this section, you are asked to provide a summary of your project. In the event that your project is awarded, this summary will be made publicly available. You will also see the summary of the budget that you're applying for. The budget summary information will automatically be pulled from the budget section that you had to complete. Annexes. There are 2 mandatory documents that you'll need to submit as part of your application for Key Action 347. These are the Declaration of Honour and Timetable. For both, please use the templates provided in this part of the application. Please also ensure that all documents are submitted electronically with the application. All documents should be signed by hand in ink. No electronic signatures can be accepted. You may also wish to attach other documents to support your application. However, this is not mandatory. The last section, checklist, is there to ensure that you have completed all the compulsory parts of the application. You'll need to tick all boxes including the data protection notice at the very bottom, in order to complete this section. This funding has 3 assessment criteria, and it's essential that you understand how your application will be assessed in order for you to write a high-quality Key Action 3 application. Much more detail on the assessment criteria is available in the 2020 Programme Guide, page 195, as well as information on key terms such as non-formal learning, and we'd strongly recommend and emphasise that you have a look at these. Also, the Erasmus Plus website has the Guide for Experts, which is the guide for the assessors, and again this is useful to gain insight on what is being looked for in successful projects. Finally, please feel free to contact us via the routes above. We are here to help. Thank you for listening and good luck with your application.